Hello everyone and welcome back to this new video for the tutorial that allows Python to communicate and control the microcontroller, then display the data in a very nice way. So far we have created this user interface that will connect with the microcontroller using a specific port and the board. We are able to connect and also synchronize that we are sure that we can communicate with the microcontroller. Then today's video we will be preparing the display charts by adding some logic to this bottom here, and we will have the display chart and also the control bottom for later on the channels that we will be controlling. Not only that, but we will be able to add extra frames where we can visualize the data and also remove them. So if you're interested to learn how to add these complex widgets within the frames and also how to integrate Matplotlib and the charts inside the user interface using Tkinter, stay tuned and follow this video. This video will be focusing on adding the figures for our display user interface. And within the whole tutorial, this is the first video for the part 2 where we are going to create this display user interface. This will be kind of a part 1 of the part 2 for the creating of user interface, as we will also see in the next video how to create another detail point of the display user interface. So as usual for the program, we will have everything on GitHub. I advise you to download the code and follow the video so you can have a smooth understanding. Also the code will be in Python and the text editor is VS Code. Finally, I will do my best to explain as much as possible the code, but I would expect an intermediate understanding of Python. Okay, let's take a look on the tutorial. So the first step, we are going to take a look on how this display frame logic will be working. We'll have a lot of frames and we will need some logic to manage all of that. After that, we will set up the display class, and that will be the class managing the user interface for the displaying the data. After that, we will be adding the chart, so there is a Matplotlib library involved and some other step. And then we will be adding the control bottom that will help us to manage later on adding the new channels. And this one will be more focused on the next video, not this one. And finally, we need some logic to kill the frame and the chart when we will not need it anymore. Okay, so let's jump directly and take a look on the display frame logic. So far, we created the root and also the communication frame and also the connection frame. So this is what we have been doing so far. And now what we would like to add is a display frame where we can see everything. But we would like to have the ability to extend the frame and see different charts and everything. So this is what we will be going to create. A frame, like a multiple frame that can be used to see multiple different charts and as the wish of the user. So to do so, we will have in one frame a graphic display, and this one will be a chart, and this one based on Matplotlib, and also a channel frame where we'll have multiple channels that we would like to see, and inside this one that will be the topic of the next video. And then finally a bottom that will be, a control frame for the channel frame that will be used to add or remove some channels that we would like to see. And so far, by the final point, we would like to extend this to all the chart that we do have, all the frames that we do have. And to manage such a complex way of frames, what we will need is not putting an object for a frame, but we need to create a list that will be putting all the frames. So all the frames will be in object, which will be a list, and inside this list will be indexed with the frames. So that's a little bit more complex, but we need to go like that so we can manage a big number of frames. And then same logic will be done for the graphics. But for the graphic, we will be creating a list of lists, because we will put in one list, inside the internal list, we'll have the graphic, the plot, and everything. So when we call them, it will be inside the frame index. So using the frame index, we can see all the options. And that will be also the same logic for the buttons. We will be also making a list of lists, actually. And inside that one, we can have all the elements that we can control. So that looks a little bit complex, and that's why I wanted to divide this two videos, like, because there's some logic that we need to grasp, and better that we will see this inside the code. So let's jump and now start by setting up the display class. So we are back to our main program for the GUIs master, and we are going to create our last class. So let's add it. So a class, and we call this GUI, so for display GUI, and we are going to make the first initialization function method, so def, and we put init here, and instead of the known, let me remove the known, and after that we are always adding the root, the serial, and also the data, as that will be working. This object will be also planning here. So self dot root will be equal root, and after that self dot serial will be equal to serial, and finally self dot data will be equal to data. So adding all this one, we can jump and go adding the frame object that will be a list that will have all the list of the frames that we are going to create. So for this one, we are going to put self.frames, and that will be equal to the empty list that we will be using later on. And we will be also adding the position frames, so self.frames here call, and that will be equal to 0 because the initial column will be 0, and then we will see if it will be increasing. And after that self.frames.row will be equal to 4. Okay, that's because we are going, that's the starting point, as from the main root GUI we are going to use, we are starting from 4 because the first 3 rows are used by the connection and communication GUIs. And then finally we will add a self total frames, and this one will be just an integer to stock the number of frames that we do have, and that will be equal 0. Okay, that's really good. But this is just initialization, and we are going to add a new method called add channel master. So this is the one that will be adding a new frame each time. So add channel master like this, and that will be accepting only the self. We don't need to add any other input. And on this one, it will be a summary of the method that will be creating the whole display channel. So we will create on this part of the video only 2, which will be self dot, and we will call it add master frame. So this is the one that we will be using to add the new frame. And after that, we will also add self dot, and we will call it adjust root frame. So we need to change the root size each time, and this is the one that we are going to use. So let's start with the first one. Let's copy here so we don't have any mistake. So let's put def and then Control V. So we are needing to have the self here, and let's start by creating the new frame that we will be using to put all the display inside it. So this new frame will have the root as a core, like the origin. So let's say self dot frames, and you remember this is the frames we are using here, this self dot frames, and what we are going to add is an append here. So we are appending and stocking the widget or recording the widget inside the list. So we'll put, it will be a label frame, and the origin will be the self.root, so it will be directly under the root. Okay, so for the text here, what we are going to add is simply a part of the name. So we will call it, so let's put a text here, and equal, and we'll put F like this. And so this is a text that will be edited a little bit. So we call it display manager, and you can call it whatever you want, of course. And we will be adding here small like this. Let's add a small space, and the text will be here the len of the self dot frames actually, so we don't do a mistake, self dot frames, and we can add +1 so we don't have a 0 like this. Okay, So this is the first part. So we added this root, we added the name, but let's add a little bit as usual of the pad X and pad Y. So I usually am a fan of 5, giving us a little bit of space so we don't have a very kind of a difficult views, and this one also equal 5, and we just finish by changing the color. So for you guys, just to see how we can play more with the option that we do have. Okay, let's save. So what is good with VS Code, it adjusts immediately the display. And let's go back again and start by updating the self.frames like this. No, not frames, but total frames. Here where we would like to update the count or the number of total frames like this. Total frames equal, and it will be the len of self.frames. Let's copy to avoid mistakes again. Okay, perfect. So after that, now we are going to work on the position, the column position and the row position of the frame that we are going to add, and this will be like this. So we'll be doing like if. So here we are going to check about total frames. If the number of total frames here is non-dividable by 0, so if this one is equal to 0, okay, so if the rest of the division or modulus of 2 equal to 0, our column will be, so self.frame call, this one will be equal to 0. Okay, so we are putting our frame column as a 0, but else here the self.frame call like this will be sorry, this one, it's a mistake, should be like this. This one will equal to 9. So we'll have, it's a kind of a binary choice. So if it will be like the first one on the line will be 0, like the column 0, else it will be a column 9, because that will be the equal total of both the number of column of the display and the communication and the connection frames. Okay, good. And then now what we are going to update is the frame rows. So we will put self.frames rows here, frame row, and this one will be equal 4, because we will need to have the first because we already have the number 41 happening. So this is the four first rows are already used by the display, the communication and connection frames plus, and we will be multiplying the number 4 by like this, and we will put the int, sorry, not this cube, but int like this, and we will have self dot the total frames like this. Just a moment, self of total frames divided by 2. Okay, we will be taking only the remaining of the division, like only the integer part of this one, to put the rows. So finally we are able to make the grid, and how we will call this object to make the grid, to put it in the grid. So we will go to frames, and here the index will be self frames, and that's very helpful here. So we will put it here, and then we will put grid then, and from we add a pad X, and after that the column here where it's becoming interesting. So the column, you can imagine by yourself, this is already computed here, so we just use the column, and column will be L here. The row pad X equal to 5 as usual, and let's put also the row. The row will be equal the self.frame row like this, and also after that column span, as between 2 frames there is 9 1 happening, so even it is 0 or 9, so it will be the column span will be 8. So column span like here, span equal, actually not 8, 9, and we would like that this frame would be sticky. Means if I put sticky like this, and we would like to have it equal to north and west. Means all my column will be always trying to be pushed to the north, to the north and to the west, which is the top and left. Okay, so that's so far looks good. Hopefully you could understand the explanation. If you do have any question, just jump in the comment area and you let me know. I'll be happy to help you on this one. So after that, we need to change the dimension, as we explained before, the dimension of the root itself. So let's go to the adjust root frame like this, adjust root frame, and we will be using only the self. You can imagine it. So we are going to change the root frame because we are adding a new frames. So this is the root size that have to change. So we are going to compute this one again, and this is because we may need it later on when we are going to remove the frames. So we will have this one updated again. And what we are going to do, so this is how the size will be changed. So if the total frames here is greater than 0. So if it's greater than 0, we immediately, the root, what we call it, we will have a small width equal 800. So the 800 is the number of, just a moment, this one is a -1, I forget to put a -1. So if it's greater than 0, so if I have more than one frame, then the size of my width should be the normal size, which is 800 multiplied by 2, because I'm adding each time only 2 frames by row. Okay, else, so in the opposite way, so else here, the root width will be equal to just 800. So if I have only one display, then it will be 800, including the display, the communication, and the connection frame. So let me put a correct else here. It's a shame to have that like this. Okay, so after that, let's talk on the height of our root display. So if self dot total frames here, but we need to add 1 here. So if I do have the number, so if it's equal to 0, so if I do have only 1, so what we need to do, that will be my root height here. Where is it? Root height will be equal 120. What does it mean? So if this one, so because I'm putting here, if I do have this one equals 0, it means I do have only 1. But if I put +1 and then it is equal to 0, it means I don't have any display frame, so I just have to put the height of the normal communication and connection one. And then else, here where it becomes interesting, so we put root height is equal 120, which is the initial one, plus 430. This is the dimension that I have chosen, and this is based on having 8 channel views. You can change it if you do have a bigger screen, but it's already taken a lot of space. And we will be multiplying by int of self total frame here, int of self total frame divided by 2, because I will be having 2 frames by row, but I'm be adding +1. Okay, and here +1. So we will have 2 frames each time, but adding +1 because I need to add it if I do have only 1 frame. Okay, so after that we will just put self.root.geometry, and that will be just simple string that will be adjusted based on the number. So here we will be putting the root width multiplied by the root height. Root height. Okay, that's what we need. We should be good. So now let's add here, just to see the dimension. Let me add to the right another one, and let me close this one. Let me close this one so we can have a visibility on our methods in this area. And let me close this one too. And what we are going to do is to take a look, close the whole thing here, and start on the connection GUI object. And what we are going to start doing immediately is to start calling this new class that we do have here. So at the end of the GUI initialization, this is what we will do after the opening. So what we can call it is self, and let's call it a chart master. Okay, so this is how we are going to call, and what we are going to call then, it's equal to this GUI, and we are going to pass self.root, and then self.serial, and finally self.data. Okay, so we are going to pass all this one. And let me close this init function. So here we have initialized the class, and we can jump later on to adding a new chart. So by adding the new chart here, so we go to the new chart here, and what we need to do is simply we put self.chartMaster, and this one would be adding, we put this add chart master here, a channel master. We put it like this, and we are ready. We do have a code ready to jump. So let's go and start running this code from integrated terminal. Let's close the problems, and we go for Python, and after that we call the master one. Okay, let me bring the GUI here and COM3 size. Let's see if this connects. Okay, so we do have our channels ready, everything is good. Let's try to add. So we do have a problem here. So this is coming in line 341, so we can close this one now, we don't need it anymore. And it says this one is out of index. Let's go for it. 300, let's make this one smaller and be sure that everything goes well. Not here, but actually here 341, and here perfect. Okay, what does it say? Of course, because I forgot to add -1 here. Okay, perfect. I think on this one, if this -1 is here, because I need to have a 0 so I can index on this one directly each time. So let's close my user interface, rerun again, and take a look on the code. Let's jump here and go here, connect. Good so far. And yeah, we do have our GUI increasing the size for one new frame that it will be used as a chart here and visualization. If I click again, that's getting a bigger, but let's see when I click another time, and do like this, I have the place for two other GUIs. So now we have prepared our GUIs to get increased and add a new frame. We can jump to the next step where we are going to add the frame of the chart and everything. Perfect. Okay, so this is the part where we are going to start and add the method that will add the graph. So what we will do is go def, and we will put the add graph method. Okay, let's use this one, and it will be using only self. So first of all, also let's initialize the self.fix that we will be using. So self.fix like this, and this one will be having or recording all the figures, all the data related to charts that we are going to use. And then we will initialize it again. So each time we will be calling this method, we will need to append and add a new element in it. So self.fix will be like appending so a list, and we will need that. So we will be updating a list inside of all the lists, and within this list we will add some element. So before jumping to those element 2, let's add the libraries that we are going to use. So we will put the import Matplotlib like this, dot and pyplot. So pyplot as PLT, so we don't spend a lot of time. And if you do not have this like installed yet, what you have to do is just pip install like this, and we will put just Matplotlib. Matplotlib. Okay, so I will put in the comment. And also, if you don't have it too, like if you do have it, what I really advise you to make is to also add this line. So Python -m pip install, and after that, not a pip install, but a pip install, and after that you have a -- upgrade Matplotlib. So I quite really advise you to do this. The latest libraries, the latest version of the Matplotlib has been quite very well updated and very well maintained. So a lot of bugs in the previous version has been cleaned. So really recommend you to do this before you start by upgrading also if you do have the Matplotlib. Okay, so let's go back to our method here and start adding to our figs. So here. So what we are going inside figs, but the index, so we are going to a very helpful index that we already saved here, which is self.total_frame, and we put it here, and we are going to append to that because it will have the same index as the number of frame that we will have. So when inside the append, what we will do, so plt.figures, okay, .figure actually not with a s, and we put fig size. So this is the size I'll be using because I do have a certain screen, 7 and 5. My DPI, like this, is equal to 80. Okay, we should be good. So fig size, I don't know. Oh yeah, I have to put the parentheses in both, and this one should be okay. Perfect. So something is not going right. Let's check why this is not going on. Yeah, this also reminds me that we should better add this GUI here, just in case, like this. And so this is the append and the figure. So we have to close this one and should be good. Okay, so this one will create the figure, and then self.figs, and it's exactly the same. Actually, we are going to append at the same inside the same list from the first index. So append, so we are having a list inside the list, and we are going to append from here. So it will be, we are calling the same one, so this self.figs, but we are calling what is inside this, which is a 0. So the element that we created before, the figure that we created before, and we are going to add it a subplot. So add subplot plot, and we add the 1 1 1 like this, and we close it. So here we added the plot inside it, and finally what we are going to add, and this is the most important, the really crazy important thing that you have to work on, is a special feature in the Matplotlib that will insert the graph inside the user interface of Tkinter. So it will be self.figs, so it's the same exact actually. So let's copy this one again to avoid any issue of copying. .frame here, and what we are going to put is another time is append, and this is the third one. And what we are going to append is we will need to use a function. This is the function. I hope I always make a mistake in it, but it's a figure canvas tk argument, tk but like this, agg, and we open this one, and inside this one we are going to use again this one, 0.0 here, and after that master, and that will be the master. And so the master will be the frame master that we are going to use is self.frames. This is the one that we created in the previous step of the video, and we will put here total frames here, and that will be at the index of self total frames here. It's a little bit complicated, I know that, but that's the most difficult step. And you can see here, this is still not added in the how to say, this is not included here. It's in green, so we need to call from the library. It's inside the Matplotlib, so we have to go here and start adding it. I'm always making mistake on that, so hopefully this time should be good. So it will be the Matplotlib, just a moment, Matplotlib, and then dot backend. This one, backends, actually, it helped me a lot. After that, backend tk egg, where is it? Back, let's try to, and about tk, yeah, this one. And we have to import actually two things, so even one is enough. So that will be figure, I want tk, this one, perfect. So now probably then I made a mistake on this one. So figure canvas, where is missing? Figure canvas, I don't know what's missing here. Okay, now it's correct, and we can jump to the next one. So now we created this one. The only thing that we still have to do is just to make it in the grid. So to make it in the grid is just to use, so same as this one, the self that we have been using from the beginning, and that's why it's very convenient to have the self total frame. But this one we are calling the index number 2, the one that we just created here. Okay, so and what we are going to make is get, and here we have to need tk and widget. That's very important step. This is what will put it in the widget, and then we put the grid. And we can, after that, we can immediately play as a normal. It's like a normal widget, and we call column here. We can say equal to 1 because it's inside our the frame, inside one of the frames that we are going to see. And so the column is equal to 1, and the row is equal to 0. Okay, row equal to 0. Column span, column, just a moment, column span, oh my god, column span is equal 17, so we can add 17 position, and after that we will want it to be sticky to the north. We would like it to have it always sticky to the top. Okay, so row equals 0. I forgot to put this one. Good. So after this step, we should be good to add a chart each time to our graph. Let's add this method then and give it here because we don't need this one anymore. And so after adding everything, we can be adjusting like this. We have to remove this. We are good. So we have to put the self. Okay, looks good. So let's run our program and see how things will go. Okay, so where is the user interface? Let's check. Let's check again and connect it. Okay, there is an error. What did it say? Okay, so we do have here in 372. So let's go to 372. 372, and this saying, okay, so total frame for this one. So let's check fix. On this one we are going to append, and that's where we are adding figure canvas aggregate self fix total fragment of 0, which is correct, and master is frames equal 0. Master, so the master is a error. Let's check, maybe. So we are appending this one. This one is correct, but say an unexpected keyword master. Let's check again. Plot. We are appending this one, so we are using the figure canvas. Yeah. That's my mistake. So I need to add the tk here That's a TK, not the figure canvas. So let's check here. TK, yeah, that's my mistake. I told you, I always make this mistake with this one. Let's go back again, run our user interface quickly. That was a good exercise for memory. Okay, we do have our figure here, so you can see now we do have our figure, and the more I will clicking, the more I will have figure here. So, but I don't need them for the moment, and we can jump to the next step where we are going to improve the user interface for the display. So yeah, stay tuned for the next step. Using exactly the same logic, we are going to add the control frame. So first of all, let's add the control frame here, and this is the frame where we will have the button that will be managing the channels. So self.control frame, yeah, we call it, let's use a capital C, control frames, like this. And what we are going to put, it's an empty list for the moment. So we will be creating a new method here. We call it def, and just add button btn frame. So this is the frame that will be adding new button, and also that will be later on controlling the number of channels in the channel frame. Okay, good. So first of all, let's append and add. So we are adding a new control frame. So control frame like this. Just a moment, I forgot the dot here, and control frames, then append, and we are going to add a new list. The first element of this one will be the frame itself. So let's go for self.control frame, and the one that we are going to add, because it's the same time, is the one that we already set it up here, is self.total frames, and we will be adding this one because this is exactly the same number of total frames that we will have, and this is becoming very handy so we can control the flow and the number of elements inside the list. And what we will do is append, and here we are going to add the label frame. So label frame like this, and the frame that will be the master of this one will be so label frame, and it will be the self dot, and that will be frames, and you guess you already know it, it will be self frames dot total frames. Okay, then after that we will just add a very simple pad y, not even need a pad x, pad y, and will equal to 5, and just the background will be equal to white. And here we have created the initial frame that will be controlling later on. So let's put it on the grid immediately. So just we go here, self frames and total frame like this, and after that we put 0 because that's the thing that we immediately created, and we are going to add here so a grid. So we are going to grid this frame. So column will be equal to 0 here, and then also the row will be equal to 0. After that, let's add a little bit of pad x equal 5, pad y equal to 5. You can play with this one to see how it works, and the sticky to the north or to the top. Okay, so we put a big N here. So we created this frame and we put it on the grid. So after that, we are going also to append exactly same like this here. So we are going to append. Let's close this one so we don't do a mistake. And we are going to add a button. Okay, so let's put a button here. And for this button, the frame that I will be have is this one, the 0. Okay, so the button. So this one, my text will be equal a simple plus like this. That will be an add like for adding a new one, and the background will be equal white as usual. Let me put it like this, and then we can put a width. So my width, let's put it with the DTH. Yep. So let's put a variable for width and BT and H equal 2, and btn. So we will use this variable for both button, and we don't have to waste time. So btn w will be equal to 4, and this is the size for the bottom. You be like how to say the width is, be free to experiment by yourself. So btn width and height will be equal to btn height. btn, where is it, height, like this. Perfect. So this is, we created a new bottom here. Now what we just need to do is just to put it in the grid. So exactly same as this one, but we are going to put 1 inside instead of 0, 1, and dot a grid here, column like this, just one column equal here. So we would like the plus to be at the left, so equal 0. Row is equal 0. Paddix equal 5, and pad y is equal to 5. Okay, so now we put it on the grid. What we can do immediately after that, we just copy this two lines, and we are going to update this one. So we are creating a new bottom. Instead of plus, we are going to make minus, and this one no change. But on this one, instead of column equal 0 here, we put this one column equal 1, and that's what we need to do so we can have the full display. So let's save. Hope that everything goes well. Let's run our program and see how things will be going on. Column, we add the board, we connect, and we check. There is an issue happening here, so something is not working. It's not something is not working, is I didn't add this method to here. Self. So add bottom. Let's add it here. So this is the add master channel that should be always updated. And let's go to this part, reconnect again, like this, connect, and try to add. And we do have only one, simply because I think I should have put here 2, because of the third element as we appended. So let's check again and take a look. Okay, connect, and we add, and we do have it now. So let's add another one. We do have our control frame here working perfectly as we want, and that would be that's really perfect. So with this one, we really completed the steps of adding the GUI, and the last step of this video is to remove the GUI properly and safely. So let's go for the next step. So finally, this is a step where we'll kill the chart that we generated, or one of the frames. And so far we have been in the display GUI, but to kill the chart we are going to use the kill chart finally, this method. So what we are going to do, so we are going to try first, because maybe this is not created and the button that we do have is enable or active. So what we can do is we go for if, and we check the len of self chart master, this one, dot frames. So if we do have frames inside our chart master and it's greater than 0, so if we do have more than one frame, then this is what we will do. Let's take the total frame here. So total frame is equal, and take the len of the self dot chart master, and what we go, this is -1. Okay, chart master dot frames here, frames like this. Okay, so we do have the -1, we take that number, and what we are going to do next is to go here, the frames itself, so I'm not going to do it anymore, and we are getting the index of total frames, and after that what we do is just a destroy. We are going to destroy this frame, and this is how it's extremely useful to destroy the whole thing in one shot, but it's not enough. We have to go for self, also the chart master dot frames, and we need to remove it. So we are destroying the widget inside the index, but we need also to remove the index itself. So we have, with this one, we just use a pop function. It's simple. And after that, we have to also destroy. So go for chart again, chart master, go to figs, and we have to make also a pop, destroy the latest one that we do have. Then we also have to destroy the control frames. So self, it's exactly same for this one. So we have to go through the self like this, and after that dot charter, and let's go for the control frames that we do have, frames like this, but we need to go through here the total. No, actually we don't need that one. So like this, yeah, we need to do it. So let's put the index and put total frames. But you remember inside the total frames, if we go back to this one and let's take a look to the control frames, we do have this one, 1, 2, 3, but this is the core frame. So what we are going to do for this one, 0, we have to destroy it. So like that, we don't keep nothing in the memory, and that's perfect. And after that, we just go to control frames again, self.controlFrames, and we are going to make a pop. So we remove whatever the data inside that. And finally, the function that we created before, self charter master, and we can use the adjust root. I hope I will not make a mistake on this one. Adjust root frame. Okay. And as usual, we can put here except. You can put the except. Just a moment. Except and pass. But you can also put the error that you would like to see. So let's run this one and see how things goes. Looks fine. Let's check just in case. Let me bring the GUI and we go through the connection again. Okay, so we are able to add. Are we able to remove? Yes, and nothing happened here. So we can add as much chat as we want and we can remove them. Yeah, doing this, we completed this video. This is a part 1 of really adding this display chart. We still have a part 2. I divided them, as you can see, is a little bit challenging to make this, but now we can do that. Thank you a lot and see you in the next video. Bye bye.